And now,
it's 10 a.m.
Let's just get down to it.
And it's time for your sports fix.
Strap yourselves in, folks.
From two guys who have covered the teams you're passionate about for years.
We are professionals.
This is Jake Scott and Ben Anderson on 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone.
Jake and Ben, 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone. Jake Scott, Ben Anderson. Happy, what is today, Ben? Thursday?
Today is Thursday.
To everybody. By the way, just got a text. We usually have Mike Smith on Thursdays. He can't come on today. His family is going through a little hardship, and just want to say shout out to Mike. I got to text him back, but sending good vibes your family's way.
Okay.
So Mike's not going to join us. He's okay, by the way.
Sure.
They just got something else grabbing his attention. So
Right.
shout out to to Mike and his family. So Mike will not be jumping on with us today, but there is still plenty to talk about today, Ben. I've got Christian working on something.
Okay. I'm going in blind as always.
Well, we'll see. We'll see if it comes together.
Okay.
But you know me. I have this theory on like personality types and what occupations they're attracted to. Mm-hmm. I have that theory.
I didn't know this was a theory of yours, but I'm following you.
No, I don't know. I tell you my theories on what personality types are attracted to being in the media.
Yeah, morons with huge egos.
Well, that's only a part of it. But yeah, right. I mean, of course, look who's talking. But anyway, I've got one for you when it comes to sports.
Okay.
So
You're going to wait until we have the sound?
yeah,
You're going to fire it at me?
Yeah, we won't even do it if we don't have the sound. The sound's the best part.
Okay. Great. Sounds good to me.
Maybe we'll just play Casey Kasem or something if
right.
if it
Well, why not?
doesn't pan out. They do it to me every time, man.
Got college football playoff tonight. The Fighting Irish taking on Penn State. We'll see if this game turns out to be better than some of the games we've seen so far. Really, Arizona State, Texas has been the only one that is even remotely memorable as far as like big plays.
It being watchable, yeah.
Stars coming out, players becoming stars. And we know Cam Scatterbo was quite good, but he really announced himself on the national level in that game, so we'll see what happens with Notre Dame. And Penn State tonight. Penn State's got that pretty good quarterback. So we'll see how they play. And then we just have a run of great football. Well, at least billed as great football. Again, I'm always leery.
I like watching football, but can I tell you, I am unenthused. For one, I hate all four of these teams.
In the playoff.
That are left. There's not a single one left that I'm like, oh, okay, I can jump on board. And I even jumped on board with Boise State and Arizona State.
Sure.
During this whole thing, which I honestly thought I would never do. But all four of these teams, no thanks. So that's just me personally. But like, is there a point where...
I guess I'm with you. I haven't thought about this. I'm not a huge Notre Dame guy. I'm certainly not a Penn State guy. I'm definitely not a Texas guy. So I guess by default, I'm an Ohio State.
Oh, I can't stand Ohio State.
And I'm probably defaulting to the Buckeyes.
That's gross.
What am I going to pick?
Nothing. Not watching it.
It is our job. So I will be paying attention. I will be tuned in to these games.
I'm going to be in the command center tonight. So
you're going to have it on.
We will have it on. But me personally, I'm unenthused about any of these teams. But at what point is it like watered down? You know what I mean? Like, oh, I've already watched 2 rounds of play. Like, can it get watered down? I'll give you an example with all the rounds of the NCAA tournament. There's like a little bit there in the middle where that gets lost, or even in the Final Four where I'm tired. You know, I don't know. Can it be diluted? The thing about the bowl system, or even the BCS, was it culminated with a giant game and then it was over. You know what I mean? Uh-huh. It didn't, like the NBA playoffs is so watered down to me. It drags on
like a month
so
and a half.
long.
It's really long. Yeah. At least a month and a half.
And
right?
I'm
Starts in mid-April and goes to mid-June.
I'm always super excited about it. Like I'm the type of guy you remember when they did that, maybe they still do. What is it? Like 30 nights of basketball or whatever.
The first 2 rounds, there's games every night for whatever that is. You know, they schedule it so there's a game every night.
So I'm the type of guy that's like, I make it through night 3, and then it's like, okay.
A little bit of exhaustion.
And then I skip, to night 6. And then I'm like, okay, I'm back on board for a minute, maybe catch night 7. And then I'm out till like night 15. You know what I mean? And I'm not talking about when the Jazz are involved. I'm just talking about my overall NBA fandom. I just lose it. And then the finals, if the matchup is interesting, I'm into it. And then if it's not, like, I lose steam.
I generally think the
playoffs.
finals is the worst round, even though there have been good finals historically and great moments, and you become a legend there. And I still watch them, but I'm with you. I like the momentum of the early rounds more. The same way I think you're talking about with the NCAA tournament is like those first couple of days, that momentum of the opening weekend is great, and it really slows down
because of how excited you are about it.
Right. You haven't had it in a while.
Does it wane? Does it get watered down? Are we in danger of that with college football? Because I don't think that really existed with college football.
It certainly did not exist.
Because I'm tired.
Though I do have to say, even historically, and these would have already been done, right? Because they would have been played on New Year's and New Year's Eve, like the big games historically. Yeah. We would have been done with this. I do think there were times when, if the season ends in mid-November, there's a championship game in your conference, by the time January rolls around, it's like, oh, yeah, that team. You know what I mean? So at least there is a little bit more familiarity now with some of these teams because the last time we saw them play was 12 days ago. I think that actually does help the product.
Most people would tell you the NFL isn't that way. I think it can be, but the NFL I don't think is comparable to other sports.
The NFL is, like I saw people talking about, like, look at the NBA compared to the NFL. It's like, why are you comparing the two?
Yeah.
They have nothing in common other than their professional sports, but, like, the NFL is a juggernaut unto its own. Nothing else matters.
Are always excited about the NFL. It's just, I don't know. I don't think there is a sport. Maybe, maybe football in parts of the world
but not where we
would be comparable. But here, there's just not, And I don't know. The hockey playoffs seem to have a better flow than the NBA playoffs, even though they're just as long.
Uh-huh.
Because don't they do, maybe we'll ask Cole about this, but I think they do every other night. They don't mix in travel days. Hockey, keeps it more crisp.
And the games are elite.
So, I don't know. But with college football, I'm not that juiced about tonight's game. I'm just not. And again, maybe that's me personally because I just don't like any of these teams. And I like to find things to root for in games to keep me interested. And I'm not a gambler. So sometimes when we have these matchups where I really dislike both teams, it's difficult for me. But
we're also getting to a weird thing where this is now the college football playoff, and this is the semifinals. I mean, this is to set up the championship. This is today serving as the appetizer, and tomorrow serving as the appetizer for the NFL playoffs starting on Saturday. Like that, as we opened this segment, I was talking about this is a great run of football that we have, and really it culminates Saturday and Sunday with the NFL playoffs. So I think that is the issue I'm having a little bit with it right now, is that the games we're seeing on Thursday and the games we're seeing on Friday are going to very quickly be overshadowed by the NFL. So to that point, you are setting yourself up to forget about the college football games because they're going to be washed out by the NFL playoff games this weekend, and the NFL is king. Like usually college football playoffs would have been wrapped up a week ago.
Right.
Or maybe this was the championship game this
usually
weekend.
It was New Year's and a couple of days after, and then it was over.
But yeah, now they're they're clearly not competing with the NFL. It's why they're playing on a Thursday.
And a Friday.
It's like, you guys might be losing the plot a little bit.
Yeah, because
you're losing your real estate.
They're bumped off a Saturday.
Yeah. So I am excited for this run of football, but I really am way more excited for what we're going to see Saturday and Sunday than what we're going to see tonight and tomorrow. And that's too bad because college football, historically, these big games are at times legendary and classics.
Well, I don't really care about them losing the battle with the NFL because that's the mouse's problem, not mine.
Sure.
I'm surprised how many people side with TV networks in all these discussions and talk about popularity and all that stuff, and don't talk about like the health of the sport, like what makes the sport interesting and fan friendly in the first place. Mm-hmm. And instead, we just get caught up in popularity like it's the same thing. And I don't think it is. I mean, it used to be great when the finality of the college football season happened around the holidays.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was great.
You had
People
time
were
off.
at home.
Yeah.
They were watching it. They were into it. You could, why do you think PK is so in love with the dang Rose Bowl? Because he probably watched it with his dad.
Yeah, right. There was
every
nostalgia
New Year's Day
baked into it.
where he just loved it, loved everything about it. It was a highlight of his youth, that something he's carried with him to this day, where I still think he sheds a tear that the Pac-10 isn't going to play against the Big Ten in the Rose Bowl.
Sure.
So, that's gone.
And you can make new traditions. I believe in that, but I do think you had a good thing going.
Yeah, that's gone.
Yeah, it is gone.
And, I was reading up a little bit yesterday on horror stories with athletes taking their finals while prepping for playoff games. Come on. You're still making them go to school.
Yeah.
That's not fair.
Right.
That's not fair to any of those guys. Are you kidding? Your coaches are in one ear screaming at you about stay focused. Got a playoff game coming up. And yet you're like, well, if I don't pass this final, then I can't play for you ever.
Yeah, I can't be on the team.
So, I mean, what's that all about? But nobody cares about that.
I guess by definition, we do have them. But do you think Texas, Ohio State, Penn State, Notre Dame are the right 4 teams to have? I mean, they won their games.
Well, define right 4 teams. And no, they didn't. Because they all lost games.
No, but they won their games in the playoffs. Like when we set up, this process started, these teams have won, right? Ohio State's won twice. Texas won twice.
Yeah.
All these teams have won twice because none of them had a bye. So do we have the right 4 teams? Or would we have been better off? And here's what I do recognize. If we were doing this in the traditional fashion and even traditional is what we've done for the last 5 or 6 years with the new playoff when it was just 4 teams, we certainly would not have had Boise State and Arizona State get the 3 and the 4 seed, right? We know they wouldn't have gotten that, but they won their division or their conference.
Yeah, they both would have been out.
So do you think Oregon would have definitely been in the Final Four? Georgia would have been in. And then it probably would have been Texas and Penn State. So we've got 2 of those 4 that would have been in the old system. Would that have been better than what we have now?
What do you define better?
I don't know.
Well, see,
that's what I'm asking you. Like, what are we trying to figure out?
Let me explain.
Are we trying to get the most deserving? Are we trying to get the best quality teams? Or are we just trying to say whoever's the hottest late in the year?
Let me give you an example of why I say define better. The BYU-Utah-Vegas Bowl was a weird game. Mm-hmm. Utah got out big. Mm-hmm. It looked like it was over in the second half. BYU battled back and came up just short in the end, right? Ron McBride himself, who was down there, by the way, I did a pregame for that bowl with good old Ronnie Mack. That was a fun experience. He said if that game would have kept going, BYU would have won.
Sure.
So, but the game ended. They hit the end point, and Utah was still up. But who was the better team? Well, you would tell me Utah. They won the game.
They won the game, yeah.
But if you extended the game 5 minutes,
sure,
the answer would have been BYU.
Yeah, if they played a 5th quarter, which wouldn't have been a quarter anymore, BYU would have won.
The answer would be BYU was the better team. So in college football, at the end of the game, Oregon was the best team or whatever.
Sure.
But you kicked the game open 5 minutes.
Quarter. Yeah.
And all of a sudden, Ohio State is the better team.
Yeah.
So define better or right or whatever. Are you change the length of the game to get a different result. I mean, quite literally by giving more games.
Yeah, right.
So is Ohio State?
You are expanding the game to the playoff conversation.
So is Ohio State the better team than Oregon? Or did they get an extra quarter like BYU would have had in Las Vegas?
Sure.
And so who is better?
Of course
what
they
is
did.
right?
They did get an extra quarter because they got to play the opening round. They got a quarter. Otherwise, they would have been eliminated before the game even started.
The game got lengthened. And now all of a sudden BYU's better than Utah.
Right. Ohio State's better than
Oregon.
Yeah.
Quite literally Oregon.
Yeah.
They got an extra quarter to beat that team.
Yes,
so who is better?
Yeah.
So I don't know how to answer your question. Would it be better? Who is better? I don't know. But I know that the game got lengthened, and in the longer game, apparently Ohio State is whatever better than Oregon, even though their record is still not as good as Oregon's.
Do you think, because this is a big conversation with the NCAA tournament, which is, how often does the best team get crowned? And I actually think coincidentally, the last 2 years, the best team has been crowned. UConn's won it back-to-back years, and I think was head and shoulders above everybody else. But that is not always the case, I don't believe.
Oh, very rarely, in fact. But would UConn be the champ if they had to play another game after?
Yeah, well, I don't know. Maybe. I don't know.
They could have easily lost.
So I guess to that point, do you think we're going to get – are you comfortable with the idea that we may not get the rightful champion?
Well, of course, I'm always – I don't believe that the best team wins most of the time in most of the sports that we're talking about. That year that Cleveland beat Golden State in the final,
right?
Cleveland was nowhere near the team Golden State was.
Literally, give them 30 more seconds, they might not win that game. You know what I mean? You don't even need
and all this circumstantial crap had to stack up for Cleveland to win that title.
Sure.
I by no means think that Cleveland was the best team that year. Not even close. The Giants, when both their Super Bowls with Eli Manning, they were absolutely not the best team in the NFL. No way. So in college football with the BCS, as flawed as it was, could you make an argument that team number 3 should have been whatever?
Yeah, right.
Every single year you can. So am I comfortable with that? Yeah, because that was never happening to begin with.
Okay.
The sport that I would say comes closest to that is the NBA because of the 7-game playoff format. We're in a 7-game series. Odds are the better team is coming out more often than not.
Okay.
Baseball is probably pretty similar, but baseball has the pitching thing, which makes it super fluky. And then hockey has the goaltender thing, which makes that super fluky. So, no, I don't. I am comfortable with that, yes, because that doesn't happen a lot.
I think we might need to get more used to this, especially in the league that you and I cover the closest, which is the NBA, that year in and year out, I don't think the best team is going to win. I think it had happened pretty regularly in the NBA. Like the Bulls were the best team in the 90s. The Lakers were the best team in the 80s. And the late 90s, early 2000s. Like when Shaq and Kobe were winning, they were clearly the best team in the NBA. When we have 6 different champions in 6 different years in the NBA and are probably going to get another this year, whether it's Cleveland who beat Oklahoma City last night or Oklahoma City wins, like, are they overwhelmingly the best? Maybe they are. Are they the defining team of the generation? No. Or this era? I don't think they're going to be. But I think there are going to be more kind of, hey, we got to the finish line first. Or thank goodness the clock ended, to your point. Thank goodness there wasn't a 5th quarter. And we just won because we were standing on top at that very second. But, man, it's a revolving door right now with a lot of these teams.
I think Boston was the best team in the league last year.
I agree. I totally agree with you.
I think Boston is still the best team in the NBA.
And there's a chance they don't win it.
And I would pick them at the moment.
I would too.
Know Cleveland is red hot, but I would pick Boston. Again, the NBA is the closest to that we have, except for the NBA's regular season has turned into such a fiasco that makes the playoffs more random. Certainly makes the seeds more random, but I don't think seeds matter anyway.
I think there's a real argument that Denver was the best team in the West last year, and they didn't even get close to the finals.
Right. Right.
Because, again, what happened? They were up huge in the first half of Game 7 against the Minnesota Timberwolves, to the point where people in the Minnesota Timberwolves front office, or in the Minnesota Timberwolves front office, were leaving the game.
Yeah.
They had given up. They said, this is over. And then the Timberwolves storm back in the 3rd and 4th quarter and get to the finals, or conference finals. I thought, okay, well, that's the best team. And then Dallas beats them. And I don't know if either of them were actually better than Denver, but they did beat them at that moment.
College basketball is the silliest one because of how big that tournament is. Like, everybody loves the Miles Simon, Mike Bibby, Arizona squad that won it all. They were the 5th place team in the Pac-10 that year. And the Pac-10 played great basketball, so tons of teams got in, and they obviously were a really good team. But, like, define best. They weren't the best team then. I would argue, and I loved the Grant Hill Duke teams. They were not better than UNLV. They beat UNLV once. but they were not better than UNLV that year.
Yeah.
And college basketball used to be so much better.
Yeah, it was loaded.
That Duke team was incredible. But that UNLV team was probably...
Is that Stacey Ogman? I can't even remember.
Stacey Ogman, Greg Anthony, Larry Johnson.
Yeah, right.
They were undefeated on the season.
Right.
They had won the national title the year before.
Yeah.
I mean, with Tark the Shark,
Right.
and they were incredible. I don't think people remember quite the dominant player Larry Johnson was in college. He was insane. And that Duke team was loaded too because it had Bobby Hurley and Grant Hill.
Christian
Leitner.
Yeah.
You know, it was a loaded team too, but it was not better than that UNLV team. But they beat them. And they ended up winning the championship that year.
You're
God,
right.
college basketball used to be so great.
Larry Johnson's freshman season at UNLV when they did win the title, he was 20 points, 11 rebounds, 2 assists. So, hey, it's funny. It's not like this was a guy who got old in college basketball. He ruled the day he got in there. He actually was just great. And then his second season, 22 points, 11 rebounds, led all of college basketball, 3 assists. And you're right, they lost that year.
And that dude was 6'4". How wild is that?
Yeah, right. Did you see him when you were in Charlotte? Was he there at that point? Or did you miss him?
I missed him. He
came in 91, 92.
Yeah. No, I got the Rex Chapman era of the Charlotte Hornets.
Okay.
Rex Chapman, Kelly Tripucka, and Muggsy Bogues.
And Muggsy, yeah. Del Curry.
Dale Curry.
Yeah.
Greg Kite, the former BYU star. That was a team.
We used to be a country. Yeah.
That was a team.
Yeah.
All right, stay tuned. We've got the top 3 stories of the day at KSLSports.com. Coming up next, Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I present...
This is JJ and Alex.
What a run this Utah State Aggies team is on. If you're not paying attention and you're not following along, you need to start because this Utah State Aggies team is really, really good. They are 4-0 in quad 1 road games. Nobody else in the country can match that. Not Duke, not Tennessee even. It's Utah State. It's just a different guy every night. So Carson Templin came off the bench, scores 18 against Fresno State. Before that, Ian Martinez scored 17 straight points to save them in Reno. And of course, Tucker Anderson hits the big threes against San Diego State. They're not leaning on just one guy. It's not just all about Mason Fallslev, who's been steady throughout. They got to have other guys step up if you're going to be an NCAA tournament team, if you're going to win the Mountain West Championship. And right now, they're in the driver's seat.
Catch JJ and Alex afternoons from 3 to 6. Presented by G2G Bars on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. It's time to break down the biggest stories of the day. This is the top 3 stories of the day on KSLSports.com. On 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Want to remind you to nominate the youth sports volunteer you know for the Hercules Hero of the Week. Submit your nomination in KSLSports.com/contests and listen every Thursday afternoon to JJ and Alex for the winner. Help us celebrate the efforts of those volunteers making an impact with the Hercules Hero of the Week, sponsored by Hercules First Federal Credit Union and Beehive Meals. Man, Drew Rosenhaus has really let himself go.
Amongst the ghouls that make up Pat McAfee's show, to be pointing out Drew Rosenhaus not looking awesome is a take.
Well, here's the thing, and I don't know. We don't need to get stuck on hairlines, but like, you remember when Jerry Rice had the braids at the end of his career,
Yeah.
even though he was bald from
Yeah.
the top of his head forward?
Right.
Like, Drew's got a bunch of that going on.
He
you
does.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so,
It's pretty thin on top. It's wispy. There's
And-
no product in it that's keeping it in place, so it is just kind of blowing all
it's
over the
like,
place.
all right, dude, just go high and tight. It's all good. It's all good. Or throw on a rug. I don't care.
I kind of wonder if he's got some plugs or something. Anyways.
Drew's looked better. All right. Time for the top 3 stories of the day.
Don't try and get him on the show.
At
He's not going to want to come on
KSL
now. We've burned that bridge.
Where are we starting today, Christian?
Number 1, how do the Jazz respond to heartbreak? They host the Miami Heat tonight.
How do they respond to beating the Heat a week ago or 4 days ago, whatever that was now? I have no idea how time works. 6 days ago, 5 days ago. Miami did, where they were in a clear-cut free fall for a while with all the Jimmy Butler drama, and Jimmy is still not with the team. They did go on the road and hammer the Golden State Warriors. Now, the Warriors are not good, but the Warriors are better than the Utah Jazz. So Miami is coming in here with a little bit of momentum. Apparently they had I don't know if it was players-only meeting, but a meeting led by Kevin Love. Which, you know what? I actually might listen to Kevin Love. Among people in the NBA, Kevin Love might actually have something to say.
He seems like he has some perspective, sure.
Yeah.
Probably a pretty good leader. Miami is terrible.
They are.
And
the East is bad. So we had our Tuesday, you and I did our weird one-off show just about Quinn Snyder, apparently.
Yeah.
And, I wasn't trying to sell necessarily the Atlanta Hawks, but I said, he might be getting the most out of that team to be 18-18. And I watched that team, and again, they were missing pieces. It's like, my goodness, how is that team 18-18 in the Eastern Conference? How is that team, how is the East that bad? That team is not just going to be at 500. They're going to easily make the play-in tournament with 5 or 6 games of padding if they don't get it to the 6th seed overall and not even have to go through the play-in tournament. The East is terrible. So to your point, yes, Miami is also terrible.
So I get back to our joke yesterday, which I think is funny, where Will Hardy has got to be looking down at the other team's bench, when he's trying to lose and playing lineups that would indicate go ahead and pull away.
Yeah.
He's got to be looking at the other coach going, what are you guys doing?
Have you ever seen the Simpsons episode where Krusty is betting on the Harlem Globetrotters and the Washington Generals are playing defense? Yeah. He's spinning the ball on his finger. Just take it. The Utah Jazz are that. They're spinning the ball on their finger. Just take it, Washington Generals. And they just keep beating the Washington Generals.
He's got to be hey, come on. What do you guys do? Hey, Quinn. God, what are you doing?
Go.
Would you drum us out of this game so I could put Lowry and Colin Sexton back in and not look like I'm losing on purpose? Come on.
Yep.
What are you doing? And Miami, we saw them at their worst certainly over the weekend, and it's interesting to see them play so close. But really, what are they bringing to the table? Jimmy Butler or no Jimmy Butler? It's not like Jimmy Butler is good anymore. And listen, I was the believer in the Heat.
Yeah.
But I like Tyler Hero. He's not a number one on a competitive team.
No,
he's
not.
Not even close. Terry Rozier his best days were when Clinton was president. Haywood Highsmith's a nice young player, I guess, but is he doing anything for you? Bam's great, but he's a unique player, kind of like Rudy, where he can't. He's not going to carry the team guy.
No, he might be a floor raiser and not a ceiling raiser.
Yeah,
the way Jimmy, I think, is a ceiling raiser. But yeah, to your point, if you're in free fall because you don't have Jimmy Butler, and Jimmy is a hell of a player, but he's averaging 17 points and 5 rebounds. He's not 29 points, 8 rebounds, 8 assists. This is not the Nuggets missing Nikola Jokic. This is a different animal. The Mavericks are hurting right now because they don't have Luka Doncic. Jimmy is a great player. He's no longer at that top 4, top 5 conversation, which he was able to dabble in at times when he was at his best.
I actually think the Jazz might win tonight because I think they'll play their guys for the most part. There's Jordan Clarkson is legit injured. You know what I mean? Not like injury maintenance or anything like that.
He tore his foot up.
Yeah, he's hurt.
He's in bad shape.
I would guess the Jazz will play the guys that really can play because I buy into this stuff. Danny doesn't mind sticking it to Pat Riley, so I'm going to play my guys. So you're going to lose to lowly Jazz.
Bryce Sensabaugh is questionable. This is as of yesterday. We should get an update maybe before the end of the show. Bryce is questionable. Jordan Clarkson is out, as you mentioned. John Collins remains out. Keontae George remains out. So they are still missing 3 of their top 4 rotate, or 3 of their top 6 rotation players, and Bryce is probably 8th in the rotation. So they're missing some dudes still.
So we'll see what we get tonight. But like I said, it wouldn't surprise me if the Jazz won this one. All right, what's next?
Number 2, the college football playoff continues tonight.
Great.
No, I am excited for it. I'm gonna have it on. I do wish it maybe had more local ties. That is another part of this, is there is very little locally to connect to either Notre Dame or Penn State. And Ohio State and Texas, for that matter.
Well, there's a former Big 12 team.
Yeah, there is a former Big 12 team.
Yeah, if you're in the Midwest, you're loving it.
But, we didn't see any of these teams this year on any of our local teams.
No, I just have a tough time caring. I guess I'm going to have to pull for Notre Dame, which is kind of gross. But Certainly not rooting for
Yeah,
Penn
I guess
State.
what's your dream matchup? If you have two of these four schools.
My dream matchup is just to cancel the game.
And that's not possible. So what is your...
Just cancel it.
Do you have a
We're
preference?
not going to play it. I guess Notre Dame is as much of an outsider as we're getting in this.
Okay.
This
Notre Dame
concoction.
being an outside in college football is a real stretch.
They're not in the evil two leagues.
And they still get in whenever they have a half-decent season.
But
they get in wherever they want to.
But in their way, honestly, they are sticking it to. They're certainly sticking it to the Big Ten because they've been sticking it to the Big Ten forever.
They have.
And I think in a weird way, they also stick it to the SEC because it's like, no. We're still the most valuable property.
Yeah.
And guess what? You ain't getting it.
Yeah, we can do whatever we want.
They picked the ACC
Yeah, they did.
over those two leagues. So, yeah, it's kind of funny you think of Notre Dame as an outsider, but they kind of are. And absolutely, I love it that they stick it to the Big Ten. I've always loved that. I mean, think about it for a second. Think about BYU and Independence, how lame that was, that you didn't have relationships with really any teams that you play. You know, you got to play Boise and Utah State occasionally, you know, those sorts of things where they had some meaningful stuff. Like, that is Notre Dame's existence. They have a relation.
Kind of.
They have a relationship with USC and Stanford.
And they have the built-in ACC thing.
But that hasn't always been there, and they don't care about any of those schools, and it doesn't even count towards a conference race. So really, that's just lazy athletic directoring. Because what's his name? It's not Swarbuck anymore, right? Who's their AD now? Anyway, he just didn't want to schedule games. So he's like, okay, ACC, we'll give you a piece of us so I don't have to do this. And they live with that to stick it to the Big Ten. Like, they should be in the Big Ten. There is
absolutely.
Honestly, no reason why they shouldn't be with the Big Ten.
Their geographic footprint, everything.
The Big Ten actually probably makes more money per school than Notre Dame, or at least that conversation is as equal as it's ever been.
I think it's nice not being governed by anyone. Become ungovernable, and that's what Notre Dame has figured out how to do.
Yeah, they're the weird uncle that falls off the map because screw you. That's why.
A sovereign citizen.
Yeah.
Your laws don't apply to me.
Right. Notre Dame is that, like, compound in Montana where life sucks, but screw you.
But man, I'm just going to do whatever I want.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Laws be damned.
Right.
Do whatever I want to do.
And to look at the Big Ten and go, yeah, that's a cute little league you got there, but no, we're good. Thanks.
Notre Dame's 4 regular season best wins came against Texas A&M, Louisville, Navy, and Army. But they have since beat Indiana, who might have been the worst team in the playoff, and Georgia, who was playing a backup quarterback. Like, is there a chance that everything that Notre Dame has done is just absolutely fake?
Yes. Absolutely. But you know what? Penn State hasn't beaten anybody either.
Correct.
So, I don't know. Are they a phony? Maybe.
They might all be. Maybe nobody's good.
Does Texas inspire confidence? Oh, even Ohio State, who everybody and their dog is picking now, has lost 2 games and stunk up the joint against Michigan.
You're not wrong about Penn State. Even going to the college football playoff, which you think bakes in some authenticity.
Nope.
About what they've done. They beat SMU, who I told you was the dumbest football team I've ever seen, and absolutely dogged it in that playoff game. They were awful. If Indiana wasn't the worst team in the college football playoff, it was SMU. And then they beat Boise State. But, like, it's not murderer's row. There are ways to pick apart everybody's schedule, maybe with the exception of Oregon, who I think has had the best playoff run so far. Or Ohio State, who's had the best playoff run. Excuse me.
These giant conferences have watered down the product. And they did that for the money.
Yeah.
Because the mouse was given, so the mouse gets what it wants.
So here's my hot take. Whoever wins this game is going to lose the national championship.
All right.
I'll take
Scalding.
either
Scalding
Texas
hot.
or Ohio State over Penn State or Notre Dame. And I'm going to be wrong. I know I'm going to be wrong just because I said it.
Yet another reason not to watch. Thanks, Ben.
I'll have it on. I'll have the Jazz game, and
Why? They're eventually going to lose. What's the point?
so I can at least know what I'm talking about.
Next.
Maybe something funny will happen.
And number 3, the Utah Hockey Club fell to the reigning Stanley Cup champions last night.
4-1. It certainly wasn't that lopsided. It was 2-1 going into the final couple of minutes, and they pulled the goalie and got a 200-foot goal really late in the game and then put another one in very, very late. So it was a closer game than that. You can see the youth on this team sometimes. The sharpness that the Panthers played with. It's like, yeah, that's a championship team. Like, they don't waste possessions. They really move the puck well. They're all in sync with one another. And you can see, like, oh, yeah, Utah Hockey Club is not there. And they still put up a good fight. They also, and we've seen this a couple times when they played the Ducks, like, they don't deal with physicality that well. And some of it's because, like, their players are 20 years old. Like, Logan Cooley is a child still. So, yeah, he's going to get beat up by Tkachuk. Like, some of these bigger dudes are absolutely going to push you around. They've got to figure out how to match that type of toughness, which I think at times has really hurt them this season. Even against inferior opponents, though, I wouldn't say the Panthers are inferior.
Oh, man, you bring up something interesting with the toughness that I'd be curious to learn more about with hockey. Like, Walker Kessler has gone through the toughness curve, right?
He has.
Where you don't know how tough you're going to have to be to succeed until you actually do it.
Until Brook Lopez pushes you around for 48 straight minutes. You're like, I don't belong on the court now.
And so he's had to really work on that and learn what it means to be tough in the NBA.
And has gotten there.
And has 100% gotten there.
Yeah.
Is having a great year. I wonder what that kind of curve is like for hockey.
Yeah. When being skilled and faster than everybody is no longer the end-all, be-all.
Right.
Helps, but yeah, they're still way bigger than you, and they're going to beat you up.
And you're not even on the ice unless you have some level of toughness already.
Yeah.
So you have to keep raising that floor.
Right. Yeah. No, you bring up a good point about the speed and skill, because like I always think of the movie Sin City, where Mickey Rourke handcuffs Frodo Baggins and goes, "Let's see you hop around now."
Yeah, right.
When you're not the fastest and most skilled guy on the ice.
Yeah.
Then what?
Yeah.
Let's see you hop around now.
Yeah. Then that's just part of it. I think that is part of the evolution.
Yeah,
it's just the natural evolution of how you become a good team, a great team, and a champion.
In a tough sport.
Yeah.
We're not talking, I'm trying to think of a not tough sport. Who do I want to insult? We're not talking about badminton here.
Yeah.
Although those guys are pretty tough. You see them whacking around that birdie in the Olympics?
I'm not fighting them.
No. Goodness, no. A lot of aggression there. All right, we'll get to more coming up next. Stay tuned. Jacob Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Accessing.
This is Hans Olsen and Scotty G.
Bill Armstrong kind enough to join us. When they got out to a hot start, you said, hey, this might be a little bit more than where we're at. And then when you lose a few, you're like, this isn't who we are either. Is this kind of where you expected your team to be at this point in the season?
This is exactly where I expected us to be. Right in the hunt, right in the thick of things, with a great schedule in front of us. And the thing that we look forward to on the inside is that we haven't really had our whole team on the ice together. Jersey's been injured, Marino's been injured, Ingram's out now, along with Lamoureux and Bortuzzo. So we really haven't had our best lineup on that ice, and that's what I look forward to coming down the stretch, is when we need to have our best on that ice, we have a chance. Guys are coming back from being injured, and it's going to be exciting times for us just to see everybody on that ice and see how good we can be in the big moments down the stretch.
Catch Hans and Scotty weekdays from noon to 3 on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Who's got it better than us?
Your home for the best sports coverage in Utah. You're listening to Jake Scott and Ben Anderson on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Jacob Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Jake Scott, Ben Anderson. All right, Ben. I don't think it's a stretch to say like certain personality types are drawn to certain occupations.
Okay.
I find it interesting. Like, for example, I'm married to a lawyer, and like I've gone to some women lawyers of Utah events. They do a bunch of cool stuff. But anyway, I've never seen more Type A women in my entire life.
It's a bunch of Type A people. I was going to say that.
It's the most intimidating room of people to be in you could possibly imagine, because there's a personality type that's drawn to that occupation. We don't need to dive into it too much. I think there are multiple personality types that are really drawn to being in the media, but we need a psychiatrist really to get to the bottom of that mess.
Sure.
But I have a theory, and I think that most people are on board with this, that God, we got to think of a better word. But the a-hole is really drawn to coaching.
Okay.
Can we think of a better word than a-hole, by the way? It's like, I mean, jerk just seems too lazy. We can do
I
better
agree
than
with you.
that.
Yeah, and not bozo. Bozo doesn't apply.
But no,
Because bozo applies to everybody.
And bozo's kind of a clown thing, not being
right.
Not being a jerk.
But I get what you're saying.
You know, the person that's prone to being an a-hole is really drawn to coaching.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying that all coaches are that way, but that is a personality type in coaching.
Correct.
My evidence to you, Ben, Mick Cronin.
Oh, yeah.
Head college basketball coach at UCLA.
Formerly of Cincinnati.
After his team lost to Michigan.
Yes.
Now, after the loss, he had to go over, and most college coaches are this way, they have to do a radio broadcast interview before they go to the podium. So this is with UCLA, play-by-play voice. What did we, Lewin, right? Didn't we decide his name was Jeff Lewin, I think? So here's how at least part of that conversation went.
Mick, when you guys came out fighting in the second half the way that you did, 18-4, you stomped out there, and this building got real loud. That was great to hear. The inability to sustain that, what was behind that? Was it just overexerting, or why didn't it sustain after that?
We're soft. That's simple. We're soft. The problem, I told the guys, the toughest guy in the room just is going to do the radio. That's our problem right now. It's evident every day in practice. It's been evident all year. Frustrated with my staff. Extremely frustrated right now.
What will the message be?
See, like guys like you want to tell me, like, I do this for a living, about who's going to play. You got all these guys. Oh, really? Tell me who I have on this team that was an all-league player last year in any league. So quit asking me stuff like that. Mm-hmm. The answer is none. The answer is none. Okay? So the problem is you got guys think they're a lot better than they are, and that's the truth. And we're soft. We're soft. They got a great team. Look, they got a great team. They shot the ball excellent. Danny Wolf's a lottery pick. Okay, we're still, it's crazy in this day and age. We don't have fifth and sixth year guys. Every team does, so and it shows. But we're soft, guys. We get in the game and, be tough enough to make a free throw. Don't miss 11 frees. That's toughness. Ask Tracy.
Yep.
Now, Tracy, you said, well, he's upset. Tracy knows me. I'm just telling the truth. What's your opinion?
What's your opinion?
Yeah.
Poor Lewin. Josh Lewin. And by the way, the funniest part of that, in my opinion, other than the toughest guy on this team is going to do radio, which is hilarious, is the fact, Ben, do you hear the echo?
Yeah.
He's doing that on not just on the radio, but it's
that's
the PA.
Yeah, that's going over the entire Poly Pavilion or whatever it is. Going over, yeah.
The UCLA fans who were like, hey, let's stick around and see what Coach has to say after this tough loss are like, holy cow. And then he went on and said basically the same thing in the post game where he called his team out and his coaching staff and all that for being soft and all this.
Being unaccountable.
And,
right? Is that what he said?
All this stuff. And
delusional. He calls players delusional.
Listen, the sad part about coaching and why it attracts that personality type, in my opinion, is because that stuff works. And it especially works in college. But it doesn't give people an excuse to, think about that. He's talking about other people. And not to mention, propping himself up in a weird way.
Correct.
And he did the same thing in the post game where he's like, I'm the toughest guy. I've got all the energy.
He said the toughest guy's going to talk on the radio. He's talking about himself, right?
In the post game, yes, that's what he's talking about himself. In the post game, he's like, I've got 500 wins. Why? I'm the one who shouldn't care, but I'm the one who cares more. It's like, dude, hey, Mick, you very short person. You don't walk on water, bro.
Yeah. Also,
find a better, more healthy way to communicate, you psycho.
Also, it's your job to build a team. You built a bad team. This is your fault.
That's your yeah, right.
This is all your fault. And nobody has sympathy for you because you are still the highest paid person here. And I know the players get paid now, but you're still the highest paid person here. You're the UCLA head basketball coach. John Wooden had that job. You are walking in his footsteps. What are you complaining about?
But the thing is that sports in a weird way enables bad behavior, which is my point with the attracts that personality type, because they get to be the way that they want to be. I had a high school baseball coach who absolutely was that personality type. But I knew somebody that knew somebody that knew him in like real life, not sports capacity. They're like, oh, that dude's the nicest guy ever. We see that guy all the time. We love that guy. And it's like, well, yeah, because he's pretending when he's interacting with you. He gets to flex the muscle when he's in sports because it's enabled, right? You know, like you can treat people poorly and they'll go, oh, this is in my best interest. I don't know if it's an excuse to treat people poorly. Does that make any sense?
Very few things are.
Right. And winning a basketball game, is it really important enough to humiliate your whole team, your staff?
And I'm okay
publicly?
With like the play-by-play guy?
Yeah,
and
right.
Maybe he's a clown. I don't know. Maybe the play-by-play guy is a notorious clown. I honestly don't know.
I have no idea.
His background at all. But yeah, to do that, he is punching down. He's repeatedly punching down, which is always a bad look.
I used to find Popovich, his act with the media, funny, and I really don't anymore. After I saw multiple times here locally, one guy stands out in particular, but there are multiple people that he would just treat so badly. And it's like, yeah, you're Greg Popovich. Do you really get to treat people that way? Is that okay? Because you're in sports? Like in media, like bad behavior is sometimes enabled because this is a loosey-goosey industry. And I'm not really talking about anything locally, but like you can look in the news right now about what's at FS1 because we're in sports and it's a fun thing and it's a lax environment and we're not talking politics or news or these serious things. It's about games and entertainment and sometimes like, you know, people can get away with things they wouldn't in a CPA firm. You know what I mean? Right. But that doesn't mean that you can, like I've seen people here locally yell at producers and camera people and all those sorts of things. And it's like, I don't think, you're trying to get the broadcast out or whatever. It doesn't mean that you can treat people that way.
No, it doesn't at all. And this is not going to end well for Mick Cronin. This is the beginning of it all unwinding. If it hasn't started already, which it has.
Can you coach discipline without being that way?
Yes.
I would think so, too.
And you can also coach tough without coaching that way.
Right.
You can be a tough coach. There's a lot of tough coaches. But to walk in and say, I'm the strongest guy in the gym, I'm the toughest guy in the gym, I've got the most energy of anybody in the gym is ridiculous. Even if it's true, it doesn't help you to say it.
I'm going to start saying it, though. The strongest guy on this show is about to go do radio.
Well,
I give him credit for coming.
I would hope so.
I give him credit for coming up with a funny line, even though he was upset, though.
Yeah, can we clip that?
No, yeah, that needs to live forever. But how funny is that it's the PA? How that makes it so much more funny, in my opinion. Can you imagine the little kid that's looking at him like, oh, geez, coaches
lost it.
Do you think he talks like that at home? Like the toughest one in this marriage is going to buy groceries.
Yes. Yes.
Says that to his kids. Toughest guy in this family.
Toughest man in this house is about to take a bubble bath.
Oh, man. Why would anybody sign up to play for that?
Yeah, that's the thing. Nobody is going to. Unless they just have absurd money or you're going to win championships, which is what Bobby Knight could sell. We're going to win at least. They're not winning at UCLA right now, so yeah, why would you go play for them?
No, because it is an effective tactic. Like Bobby Knight had great teams and got the most out of his players because it is an effective tactic. I'm just saying, does it make it right?
I don't know if it's an effective tactic. I think it was also there with Bobby Knight. I don't know if that's why it was there. I think Bobby Knight was probably a really good coach.
Oh, we've seen – fine. Yeah. But we've seen so many a-hole coaches.
But I think it has more to do with them being natural a-holes than it does that's what makes it good.
Oh, I think – I disagree. Like there's a reason that Urban Meyer wins. And to behave that way, you have to be that personality type.
I don't think you have to because I think you can win without it.
That's what I'm saying. You don't have to, but I'm saying it works.
I think it might be more a side effect of the type of person who becomes a coach, and not every coach again, but the type of person who becomes a coach.
Yeah,
more so than what leads to winning.
It's also a generational thing. Like speaking from experience, Gen Z does not want to be coached.
No, they don't.
Tough.
Millennials
like
don't either. Not like that.
But they don't know anything. There's a reason that it was done that way to begin with. Honestly, again, I hate comparing sports to the military, but there is a reason that drill sergeants are the way that they are.
Sure.
Because it gets the most out of a group, physically that has to do a thing as one, it is the most.
I get it.
It is effective. Let me put it that way. It is effective.
When you're asking people in the military to dehumanize themselves to fight for something, I get that.
Right. That's why I'm not trying to.
That's what you're doing for basketball.
No, I'm not trying to compare the cause. And by the way, that's not why. I'm not trying. I'm just saying it is effective. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying that it's the only way to do it in sports because I absolutely don't think that it is.
A way.
But it is a way to do it, and it is an effective way, and that's why coaches do it.
It can be. It's not effective for Mick Cronin. We'll see what it ends up going.
Well, he's gone to a Final Four.
Yeah.
What, 2 years ago? 3 years ago. With Jaime Jaquez and Johnny Juzang. We're going to see go head-to-head tonight at Delta Center. All right, stay tuned. Toughest guy on this team is going to do radio. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.